Okay. All right. So thank you everyone for coming. Our discussion is on Nuremberg, so not exactly Mamma Mia tonight. Something a little different. Okay, so Nuremberg's on Netflix. It's the 2020. There's a couple of movies with Nuremberg in the title. This is the 2025 movie, which I made sure to send out so no one was going to watch an old movie that was not the right one. And all right, let's get into it. So okay, so again, a couple of you are new. I'm Ed Katz. I do Katz reviews on Facebook and on YouTube. I have a channel, Ed Katz, and I do movie discussions and reviews. And I do public relations and marketing with my firm, Katnip Marketing. But I've done theater and film reviews for years on the radio and online, and I'm happy to do these discussions. I love doing them. All right, so thank you. So, all right, the show of hands, who thought the movie was good? Okay, pretty much everybody. And you can't see there. You can only see not even half the audience, it looks like, because there's a whole bunch off to the side here that you can't see. We've got, I guess, at least 25 here tonight.
I should go a level above good.
All right, so, well, who didn't like it? Anyone? Anyone on the fence, a little so-so?
That was well done.
Wow, like consensus. I can't remember the last time we had everybody like it. All right, very good.
Very
All right,
well
that's
done
good.
movie.
Okay.
I just
So-
like the subject.
Did anyone have anything they want to criticize about it before we get into other things about it? Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Rami Malek's portrayal. I don't know if the real person was that little and, physically like him, but I read one review that said his portrayal was like a cartoon. I didn't think that he's a good actor, but I just sort of didn't get him as a psychiatrist.
Okay, so you didn't really get Rami Malek as a psychiatrist. I have to tell you, I agree with you. I felt the same thing. I thought, and he's a really good actor. He was phenomenal as Freddie Mercury in the Bohemian Rhapsody movie.
Yeah.
He's really good in other things. In Mr. Robot, he was terrific. If you saw that, kind of what brought him the TV series, Mr. Robot. But he also, hang on, there was another one. I just saw him recently in the movie The Amateur, where he played kind of a bookish guy in one of the domestic spy agencies, and his wife gets taken. And he takes it upon himself, and even though he's not like an in the field guy, he's in the office guy, he studies and learns, and he goes out and he's like an action hero to try to save his wife. So, and he was pretty good in that, because he's supposed to be a diminutive guy, and here he was asserting himself and kind of taking over and getting the bad guys. So here, I thought he was miscast. Honestly, that's just my thought. A couple of you agree.
Part
Okay.
of it was
Yes,
Goring
Elizabeth.
was so outstanding.
Right, and that's true.
It took away from his not being as good.
Right. Okay, that's a fair point. Elizabeth said that Russell Crowe as Goring kind of took up so much, and he was so good, it kind of overshadowed other roles. Yes, Brett.
The scene where Gordon has chest pain and a heart attack, and he gets aspirin. That didn't come into play until 1988.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they didn't use aspirin for heart attacks at that time.
However, I think that was a very important scene because it instantly established a doctor-patient relationship.
Right.
He was a treating doctor, and then there was a confidentiality issue, which was a major theme in the movie.
But it also showed he trusts, because he said thank you in English at the end, so he did gain his trust. Okay. So I wanted to ask you about the courtroom setting. Do you feel that held your interest? Was it suspenseful?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll mention some other courtroom movies.
Yeah,
So we'll cover that in a little bit. I don't want to do that just yet. But
I
yeah,
couldn't help but compare it. Well, this was about Goring as a main character.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but compare it to Judgment of Nuremberg.
I was going to say
Which,
that. Yes.
to me, was riveting, and the relationships to me were much more interesting and in depth. The relationship between Spencer Tracy and Burt Lancaster, I think
Right.
that really, it was very rich. And the relationships here, were superficial. I didn't.
More distant.
More
Yeah.
distant. So
I agree. That wasn't one of
and
the
the black
film's
and white
strengths.
at Nuremberg, Judgment Nuremberg. I thought
Yes.
it was-
So what I wanted to say about Judgment at Nuremberg, how many have seen Judgment at Nuremberg? Okay, a long time ago. Most of you, good. Okay, good. I would recommend, there's a newly 1 year ago remastered version, black and white, on YouTube for free. It's from the Netherlands, but it's spectacular. It's a little tricky because if you hit like closed caption, you get it in Dutch. But if you go to the settings, you can get it in English, and that's where I found it. But it's so good. It looks like 3D, and the original Judgment at Nuremberg had the best cast in the world.
Yeah.
Burt Lancaster plays a Nazi judge, German judge, who was regretted his actions as a Nazi. There was also Spencer Tracy was the lead prosecutor. Maximilian Schell was the defense attorney. This was his breakout role. And Judy Garland and Marlena Dietrich
Really?
were in it, and William Shatner
No.
playing a captain. Yes, it was great.
Who played Goering?
Goering was not in it. It was about the lower people, which is why this is a great Judgment is a great companion film to this one, because you'll see kind of what happened after the trial with Goering and these guys. You'll see how they handled the lower echelon people. And it was fascinating. Ann and I watched it. It was riveting. So I highly recommend if you could find Judgment at Nuremberg on YouTube. Yes.
Has this movie been reviewed as being more authentic as to what really happened?
This one?
Yes.
Mostly, yes. It did get a lot of, there were certain things that really happened, like Goering's testimony was almost verbatim. It was shortened, but it was almost verbatim. So there are certain real accurate things they put in, but like Fred said about the aspirin, no. Yes, ma'am.
Fred and I were in the courtroom this summer. We were on a trip, and we got to sit in the courtroom, and it was much smaller than you would imagine.
Wow.
They were definitely very crowded,
Mm.
and they couldn't allow as many people in as they wanted. But it was really very, very chilling just to be there.
I was there too. When I was there, Ann and I were on a trip in Europe, and we went to Nuremberg. We saw the stadium,
Yes.
the ruins of the stadium, which was chilling and awe-inspiring at the same time. And we couldn't get into the courtroom because it was closed. It was after hours. But we saw the building, and we did see it was smaller than we expected it to be. Yeah, which was fascinating. Yeah. Okay, so the film from critics got a 71%, which is good, but not exceptional. But audiences, 95%. Like you guys. 19 out of 20 people gave it thumbs up. Here we even have more. And Metascore 61%, IMDb 7.4, which is quite good. So this is an interesting thing. The production budget was only 7 to 10 million. I couldn't get more specific than that from what I was researching, which is really interesting because most of Russell Crowe's more recent movies, he was paid at least double that.
Yeah.
So when I was checking into why that was the case and why he would do it for less, they're saying he got a back-end deal on the overall gross of the movie, so he was making more later. And the box office was somewhere between 57 and 72 million worldwide. Interestingly, the US only accounted for 14.5 million of that. So it's a bigger hit overseas than here, which I thought was very interesting. Now, the director and writer, James Vanderbilt, and I thought this was fascinating, he was born in Norwalk, Connecticut, which is the town right next to where Ann and I lived for over 25 years in Westport. He was born in 1965, a graduate of USC School of Cinema and Television. And he's made some really big movies in Hollywood. The Amazing Spider-Man, White House Down, Scream 6, Zodiac, and a journalism drama called Truth. Let's see. So, right, he focuses on institutions under pressure, ethical dilemmas, and clashes between truth and power. So this kind of fits. His second cousin, once removed, is Anderson Cooper. And his fourth cousin is the actor Timothy Olyphant. If you've seen Deadwood, he was Sheriff Seth Bullock. He was also in FX's Justified. And Vanderbilt is also a great grandson of Alfred G. Vanderbilt, who died on the sinking of the Lusitania in 1915, and who was Gloria Vanderbilt's first cousin, which brings the connection back to Anderson. Okay, now Russell Crowe was born in New Zealand. He's 61 now. He put on over 50 pounds for this role, and right after the filming ended, he promptly went about losing it in about 3 months.
I wondered how it got so fat.
Yeah, they didn't pad it. It was him.
God.
He won the Oscar for Gladiator, and he earned nominations for The Insider and A Beautiful Mind. And those were two films where he didn't really play a bad guy. So and
Is he
did very
nominated
well.
here? Did he get nominated?
No, this film got 0 nominations. We were talking about that earlier. Anyone want to speculate why? I have 2 theories. I don't know which one's correct, and it may be a combination. But anyone have thoughts on why it got 0 nominations?
Maybe the subject.
Maybe because it's too Jewish, right? That's one possibility.
But
The other-
Hollywood is Jewish.
Yes, but there's such a wave now of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel on the propaganda and all that. So that may have influenced the committees not to nominate it. The other possible speculation I was saying earlier is could be a technicality. In the past several years, Hollywood has kind of adopted a DEI policy where films have to have certain representation to qualify for awards. And if you notice, there were practically no blacks in this movie and almost no women. There were really 3 female characters who had, I think, speaking roles. So this may not have qualified from a technical standpoint. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just guessing. But that could be why.
Well, they added Goring's wife and daughter, and that was not historical, those meetings.
Well, I'll get to that. Because I have a note on that. But you're right. Okay, so
And I found that.
Rami Malek is now 44. He did win an Oscar for portraying Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody. His character, Dr. Kelly, was married and had 3 kids and died at 45. So very sad there. But Malek became widely known, winning an Emmy for Mr. Robot, a TV series, quite good, with Christian Slater also. He's been in No Time to Die, The Little Things, The Amateur, which I mentioned, and Oppenheimer. You remember him in Oppenheimer? Yeah, well, and Bohemian Rhapsody was his big movie. But yeah, but he was in Oppenheimer with a huge cast there.
What was his part in Oppenheimer?
He was one of the other guys that Oppenheimer would consult with.
Okay.
I don't remember what his name was. I didn't research it again, but he has a key line at the end defending him. That kind of sabotaged the Robert Downey Jr. character who was attacking him, who was surreptitiously attacking him. And Rami Malek comes in as sort of the rescue and sabotages the Robert Downey Jr. character, the senator. So Malek often excels at portraying brilliant, inward, psychologically burdened men. His highly distinctive style makes him an intriguing choice for a historical courtroom drama. I think maybe not the best one. And it's one of the film's most debated elements. So you were not alone. Michael Shannon. You remember Michael Shannon in this movie? Justice Jackson, the prosecutor? Okay. So he's become one of America's big and busiest character actors. Nominated for an Oscar for Revolutionary Road and Nocturnal Animals. Known for intensity and unpredictability, he's elevated films such as Take Shelter, 99 Homes, and The Shape of Water. And where you can really see him shine is the TV series Death by Lightning. Anyone see that? He plays James Garfield. You see him go from congressman to president?
Yes.
Okay.
When they say unpredictability, do they mean his personality,
As he comes.
His on-screen persona, you don't really know what he's going to do
Not
next.
his
Not
private person.
in person, right?
I thought he was in that Broadway Empire too.
Boardwalk Empire?
Boardwalk Empire.
Yes, I think he was in that too. I saw him on Broadway in a play called Grace that was a very, very dark comedy with Paul Rudd and Ed Asner. And it was not it did not go over well, did not go long. Everybody dies in it. And it's all a bunch of dark characters, and he was one of them, and he was very good in his role. They all were, but it was not really well. Not a show you'd want to go out and say, you got to go see this. And I think that, and I told one of the producers that, I said, I think that's because we've already got great box office. Well, it still died because people were saying, you don't want to go see it. Leo Woodall, he played Howie, the translator.
Yes.
The driver, but right, the translator, who was Jewish, which came out later in the film. Okay, so he and Ann and I were like, we've seen him somewhere. Where have we seen him? I looked it up. It was White Lotus. If you saw White Lotus.
Yes. Yes.
He's also in a new TV series that got some good reviews, but Ann and I weren't thrilled with it, called Vladimir, but you may want to check it out. It's sort of a comedy. Anyway, I thought he did a really good job in his part, and he has a key role towards the end where he convinces Dr. Kelly, which is the Rami Malek character, not to give up, to help prosecute, which he did. Lydia Peckham plays the news reporter. I don't know that part. Yeah, it wasn't specified whether that part was accurate.
Did
It's a
he
good
kill
question.
himself in the real?
Yes. Yes, he did. Lydia Peckham is the actress who plays the news reporter, which I thought they really set her off when they enter for the scene where they're doing the executions. Everybody's wearing drab green. She's wearing a red overcoat, really to set her. Not that she's like practically the only woman there, but they put her in red too to really make sure you saw it. And her bright red lipstick. So anyway, she actually was in with Russell Crowe in Robin Hood the previous year, and she was also in Kingdom of Planet of the Apes. John Slattery, you remember his character, the Colonel? Not for this. Mad Men. Yeah, he really made his name in Mad Men. And he also played Ben Bradley in Spotlight, which he was very good in. And he's in Vladimir too, as well. So again, he usually plays a not likable guy. And he was in The Good Fight, 10 episodes of the show The Good Fight. Now, Goering's wife, Emma, was played by Lottie Verbeek, born in the Netherlands, trained in Amsterdam as a dancer and an actress. She's been in Outlander and The Blacklist, and lots of European productions. Now, you remember the second doctor that was brought in, Dr. Gilbert? Anyone know who that was?
Tom Hanks' son.
Exactly, Tom Hanks' son, right?
Oh.
Colin Hanks, right? And he's been in Fargo, Mad Men, and so Mad Men with John Slattery, this Small World, and King Kong. All right, and then Richard Grant had a small but significant role as Sir David Maxwell Fyfe, who was the British prosecutor who basically bails out Justice Jackson there towards the end. So he was Withnail in Withnail and I way back in the 80s. Anyone remember Withnail and I, British comedy? Okay. And then Elsie Douglas was the secretary to Justice Jackson. And Anne was asking me, that's not his wife, is it? And I had to look up. No, she's supposed to be a secretary. Well, in real life, there apparently was a romantic connection between the two of them. So she was played by Ren Schmidt, who's a 43-year-old actress. Okay. Yes.
Was it the fact that the British prosecutor kind of took over at the end and saved the day? Was that historically accurate?
Yes, that was accurate. That was accurate. Yep. And interestingly, there was another Nuremberg movie made about 20-something years ago, and I have it in the trivia notes later. Somebody else, I think it was Christopher Plummer, played the character. But in real life, the character was over 20 years younger than these two actors who played him. But they wanted someone who looked a little more senior to be bailing out Justice Jackson. So a little, dramatic license there. So now, the real Nuremberg trials did focus on crimes against humanity. They really did create these laws, so that part was accurate. And they did go about individual accountability. And this kind of introduced the concept of international justice, because previously well, you have to be tried in one country, and, here it was kind of a universal. So this was considered the birth of modern international criminal law. Okay, anyone have any questions or comments at this point?
How did he hide the pill?
How did he hide the pill? I've got several different theories on that.
I
I'll
mean,
get
they must have searched him.
31.
Yeah. Well, they showed one way he hid it. He
Well,
hid it.
I mean, it was in the cuff, in the
Yeah,
sleeve.
but how did he hide
In the
it?
cuff of his sleeve was
Oh,
one possibility, right?
He couldn't have been there that long and had it in the cup.
That's the question I was thinking.
Come
How could he have had it that long?
Somebody had to give it to him.
Right. That's the
He
other
couldn't have
theory,
hid
that
it
someone,
that
that a
long.
nurse snuck it to him with his food, and so, yes,
How about in the ring?
Yes,
in the ring.
yes.
That pill that they showed on TV, on the movie, was very large. I don't
Yes.
think it would have fit in
It
the
was
ring.
very large.
It was like shockingly large.
Yes.
But
Was in any of the letters? Was all those letters read?
yes, the letters were all read. Yep, they did not make it in without being read first. Yep, that's true.
But Ed, I gotta say again.
Yes, Bart.
They showed it right there, him ripping
Yes.
this off. I mean, it was, I saw it a very small screen. It was
No, you're right.
on a plane. And but it showed it. I mean, like right there, him taking it out of his cuff.
Right.
Of his sleeve, so.
I don't suspect that to be historically accurate,
Well,
but that's what they
Is
showed.
there
Yeah.
still a question about how he got the pill? I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about,
today?
yes.
Oh,
Somebody had to give it to
Yeah.
him.
That's one of the questions.
What about his wife and the gentleness of their life and the lovingness of, with the daughter? And then this person in jail.
Well, that's part of the criticism of the film, The Guardian, I believe, which is, yeah, wait a minute. I can't remember, wait a minute, one second, I'll find it here. Where is it? Here it is. Screen Rant criticized the film for humanizing the Nazis. How could these evil creatures look like they have, be nice? But that's sort of what Rami Malek's contention was as Dr. Kelly, that it could be anybody. It could be people in America, which is why he got thrown off the radio show he was being interviewed on. So that's another question, Is it right to portray these monsters as so human? That was some of the criticism of this movie centered
But
around.
that was the actual thesis of his interviews. And
Correct. That was the thesis of his book, which
I
is
think
why
he
it
really
wasn't so popular.
manipulated that.
Yeah,
He
and-
really
And was
manipulated
it like a
that.
Stockholm syndrome that the psychiatrist got so pulled in?
Right. What do you guys think of that? That he got pulled in? Now, do you think he admired him, was in awe of him, wanted to be his friend, or he was really just doing his job? What do you guys think?
Disgusted.
Yes, Fred.
Well, his father was a failure, and I think this movie was a failure.
Dr. Kelly's father.
Dr. Kelly's father and Herman Goering's father were also, I think there was a parallel there, deep down behind the scenes. And his father was a failure and never made it, and he wanted to be successful. And when his book wasn't accepted in his radio program, when he said malignant narcissists are all over the place, they're not just Germans. The American people rejected that. His book failed, and then he eventually got depressed and committed suicide. So
Right.
it turned out to be just sort of like his father's.
Right. Right. It's very sad. Very sad. Yeah. Yes.
The second time I watched it, I thought that Rami Malek's character was being mercenary and, following him and buttering him up so that he could write that book
Mhm.
and he could do well. The first time I saw it, I never thought that. I thought he was so into the man and so anxious to figure him out that he just kept being with him. But the second time I said, he's following up because he wants something.
Okay. So you thought the second time he was being so, what would you say?
gratuitous.
Gratuitous? Okay. Making kindly overtures to Goering, really just for his own selfish interest to publish the book. He did say, when he hands the notes over to Justice Jackson, well, I was going to do a book.
Yeah.
Right? So he did say that.
Yeah.
So that was his intent. He wasn't hiding it. And if you saw the conflict he had with the other doctor, Dr. Gilbert, Dr. Gilbert sort of saying, well, of course we can write it together. And he was like, yeah, good luck with your book. And walked out. So he did have the idea. He made it clear a couple times he was going to write a book. So that wasn't a surprise, but it's interesting. You really picked up on more the second time. Okay, yeah.
Ed,
Yes,
you know, as far as humanizing them, I mean, they lived on the other side of a wall of concentration camps
Yep.
with their families, with their gardens, with so, you know, it does, that's how they were.
there were other movies that were like Zone of Interest
Yeah.
that were the subject of just that, and The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. There were other movies where the people were
Going about their lives.
in denial,
Yeah.
I guess is the best way to put it. That's the camp right next door with the smell and the smoke coming up, and they weren't killing people, really? Okay.
And
So, yes,
I have read one thesis that said that with the real Douglas Kelly, what happened with him was he became very clinically depressed,
right,
being in the presence of all these horribly evil people,
right,
and that all of their attitudes, all of their behaviors, what they had done was so depressing. He became an alcoholic, couldn't help himself, really became very depressed.
they did show him,
Yeah.
obviously on the radio program, he was drunk and drinking more.
And that,
So they did a hint at that.
that rang true to me, that if you're around that much evil, absolute evil,
It's going to affect you.
that would affect you.
Right. Did you see Mindhunter, the TV series?
Yeah.
It's got, if I remember right, it's got Ben Platt in it. Is it Ben Platt? No, it's not Ben Platt. It's the Jonathan Groff, who was phenomenal on Broadway in Hamilton. He was in George.
He
He
was
was in
wonderful,
Spring Awakening.
just in time.
Just in time,
Yeah,
right?
he was
Bobby Darin,
superstar on
right?
Broadway.
So he's an amazing actor, and he was in this show. I think it was called Mindhunter on Netflix. I think Netflix, where he and this other guy are tracking down serial killers, like famous ones, to interview them to try to learn about their behavior and what causes it, so it can be learned and studied and hopefully prevented. So, but I recommend it. It's very, very good. But it was set in the like 80s, right around the time, 70s, 80s, whatever, where all the serial killers were one after another. And he's going around, flying around the country interviewing them. And that's what you see. So it was pretty fascinating. Yes.
Years ago, I read a fascinating book by the historian Michael Beschloss,
Yep.
who used to be on TV all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And it was called Ordinary Germans. And it's just what we're talking about. How did ordinary people
Right.
become such monsters?
Right.
And I mean, it was fascinating. I remember some of the pictures in the book of postcards that these Germans who were fighting, you know, who were the Nazis, were sending home to their families of piles of dead bodies between them. I mean, I just remember that. But the book, if anybody cares to read it, it was really interesting.
So one second. So Judgment at Nuremberg had a discussion about what happened after World War I and how the Germans resented the punishing terms of the treaty, and it built up this resentment, and that's why it led to Hitler saying, "We're going to restore Germany again," and Goering said, "Yeah, this guy's got a good idea. I'm going along with him," and that's where it came from. And this movie didn't address it as much, but Judgment at Nuremberg really did, in quite a big scene there. Yes, Bart.
I want to go back to the thing about Stockholm Syndrome. It's the prison study of Stanford. It's the exact, I mean, I kept on thinking about that as I was watching it. Well, I was there, by the way.
Right.
I was at Stanford.
You were at
So,
Stanford,
going
yeah.
on.
This wasn't when you were studying the gorilla, right?
No, well, no, they were different floors.
Oh, wow.
We couldn't go downstairs to the basement. That's where Phil had, but it was shocking to everybody. It was totally shocking. These wonderfully nice young students become so evil.
And here we have the college campuses where they're backing Hamas. So yeah, okay. Yes.
I was thinking that that's why they highlighted the normalcy of that lovely family that lived behind or in front of the concentration camp. That given the right circumstances, normal people can turn, I don't know if you want to use the word evil, but
Right.
this happens.
Right.
And I think that that's what made it such a contemporary idea as well.
Yes.
Okay. I want to see if I have it in my notes here or no. Now I got to find it. Shoot. Do you remember the quote at the end of the movie?
Oh, so good.
I got it. Okay, I found it. Good. Anyone remember the quote at the very end of the movie? They're about to roll the credits. The last thing you see is, quote, "The only clue to what man can do is what man has done." So they're basically saying Rami Malek, as Dr. Kelly's theory, is right, that it can happen again.
Yeah.
And then, we're seeing this kind of thing bubbling up here in America, and not only America, maybe even more so in Europe. So definitely fascinating. Okay, yes, any more comments you guys have? Okay.
I have something.
Yes, sir.
When, right in the beginning, he drives his car with his family right into the American troops, while his buddies are heading in a submarine to South America. Mengele and Adolf Eichmann, he had the means to escape and go to South America, but he chose to be arrested. And I think it's interesting to think why he did that. And it fits in with his narcissism.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, but when he surrenders, he also says he wants somebody to get his bags.
Yes, he wants someone to get his bags. He thought he would win because he was a narcissist.
That's why he did.
Right, and if you remember, Kelly warned Justice Jackson, you can't beat him. Right? Initially, that's what he said, without help. But
He got him to show him the magic trick. I think that has to do with the pills that he was able to hide.
Right, yeah, the
And
learning to do the hiding with the pill, right? Right. Well, yeah. So yeah, he figured that would be his way out if it didn't go well, and he was ready. Yeah.
And I'm wondering, is there any way of knowing how much the writer was writing it to compare it to what's going on now?
I think that last clue, the quote at the end of the movie, I think that was the rationale right there. That yes, that's why they wanted to do this. Again. It can happen again. It's a warning. Things were bubbling up. This movie is not old. It was completed in 2025. So obviously, I think they always say when you're looking at a movie that's a historical movie, don't just think about the historical setting. Think about the circumstances of when it was made, because that's going to dictate how it's portrayed. And I think you've got that right here. We're seeing it right here with this movie, with today's times, with all the stuff that's going on today. A movie about Nuremberg from the late 40s. They're showing the relevance.
To do it on purpose.
Of course.
That was one of the reasons for
Right.
doing it.
Right. Okay. Now. Okay, so some of the critics' quotes, I just have little snippets. All right, so RogerEbert.com, and I don't remember who was writing it this time because Ebert's been gone for a while, but that website is still big on film reviews. A solid film of a kind that used to be more common, a serious adult historical drama made for thoughtful audiences. And I thought that was an interesting kind that used to be more common. So right, they used to make more movies like Judgment at Nuremberg, for example. But it's great to see that they can make kind of what you might want to call an old-fashioned movie about war, but the way they portrayed it. And all right, I've got more stuff in the trivia that I'll get to because I've buried a lot in there. But San Francisco Chronicle called it a gripping battle of minds. And it was interesting that Justice Jackson really did get beat. If British Maxwell Fyfe, right, by Garrett
at that point.
If Fyfe didn't come to the rescue to bring the whole thing back the right way, what would have happened? That could have changed the course of history, and he might have been found not guilty. Right, and then all the others would have been. So
and then we have no international law.
Right, and we may never have had international law for criminals. Exactly.
I was reading that people didn't think he was a great legal mind. He was kind of a politician.
He was the Supreme Court justice who was theoretically in line to be the head justice, the chief justice. But yes,
but isn't that a bit of a sham, this trial? When it's a show trial.
Well, that's the question.
But it's not a real trial. It's a show trial. You cannot let him go. There's no not guilty verdict. It doesn't happen. it doesn't exist.
But don't you think the tribunal was like at least bending over backwards in Goering's favor?
Show,
Yes.
or kind of,
Because
to
the world was
it's like
like.
a make-believe kind of situation. You cannot leave the courtroom with a not guilty verdict. It's
Right.
not in the cards.
Right.
And even going through the trial is to kind of normalize, this is a problem, as opposed to just shooting these people
Right.
at the entry, we're not really going to court, we're gonna shoot you all because you are horrible human beings, you deserve to be shot, not tried. What do you mean tried for? Wars against, evil? Like, what in fact are you being tried for?
Well, crimes against humanity.
Crimes against humanity.
Right.
Have we seen these trials before? It's not.
No, this was the first one. This set the precedent. Jackson helped write some of the terms on how this could happen, which was kind of interesting. So he does get credit for that. But in Judgment at Nuremberg, they talked about is it a show trial? Because who cares about these people really? They're not, because in Judgment at Nuremberg, it was judges who signed the orders that were okay. They weren't the generals. They were working people, granted, they were judges, but they were not the military. So could they be held accountable? That was the whole premise of Judgment at Nuremberg in real life as well as in the movie. But in the movie, they had a really funny scene where they said that Eisenhower gave the okay, but through Congress, to hold the trials.
Right.
And they said, oh, and then Spencer Tracy, as the chief prosecutor, says, oh, that's great that Eisenhower's on board with that. He goes, yeah. Eisenhower also said, then hang them. So there you go. So it was like, yeah, it's a foregone conclusion. They're going to get hanged. So to make your point.
It was interesting how upset Jackson was that he committed suicide and he wasn't able to see him actually hung.
Yeah.
Because how much maybe he had to.
Right. Okay.
That's it.
IGN said this film doesn't quite stand up with the best films centered on World War II. Okay, maybe. The Times said it's flawed to its core, but never less than riveting. Kind of an interesting critique.
Interesting.
Rotten Tomatoes consensus was it's driven by a commanding performance from Russell Crowe. Yes. All right, and even The Guardian, who called it deeply silly, said Crowe is top notch, but Malick, they criticized his performance as quote deeply silly.
Deeply silly.
No, I think that's a little hard.
Every movement.
Yes.
First of all, I don't know that the Academy likes Crowe. I mean, that's a whole other thing.
Well, he's been nominated 3 times and won one for
In the
Gladiator.
past.
That was a while ago, but yeah.
Right. And the assistant prosecutor is based in France, which I read a lot about him and followed. He died in 2023. He was 103 years old.
Wow.
And he was on television a lot. And
He wasn't in the movie though, was he?
no, but
Right.
he was really instrumental. He was his first case. And I don't know, they didn't mention him, but
Yeah, that's a shame. They just cut him for dramatic purposes.
Yeah.
The running time was already kind of long for this movie, but yeah.
There's a movie about him. There's a movie about him. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. That would be good. That would be good. Interestingly, the Daily Beast said this film was constructed like an old-fashioned awards-based period piece, and it got 0 nominations. Now, it did have other awards internationally. It won and got nominated for some awards, but not in America. Okay, so do you know where they shot this movie? Budapest. Because the architecture was right, and they got tax abatements and whatever. It was cheaper to do it there. I thought that was interesting.
Warband was the president.
Right. That was really interesting. Yeah, true. So they were able to recreate post-war Europe and the solemn courtroom atmosphere more easily doing it there. Cinematography focused on muted visual palettes, which they, from what I read, say may emphasize guilt, exhaustion, and trauma. And remember, I was telling you they're all wearing drab jackets, except of course the British woman reporter in the bright red, just to, again, mark the contrast. The score was restrained and somber rather than emotionally manipulative. And, okay. All right, we already talked about Crow and Malik.
And just going back, was there any discussion of why they would have chose Randy Malik to be a weak man, broken, flawed in so many ways?
I think that's historically pretty accurate.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
So he was meant for that. He was cast, I guess, for that reason.
Like the Aryans as a super race in some ways. It showed them above, beyond the normal people, the normal psychiatrists in some respect. You know, with Goering, his stature, his language.
Right.
If he was a representative of the people, it was very unusual. I found that. And
Well, he really, in real life, he had an IQ of 138, so bright. So that may have been pretty accurate.
Yeah, but not the rest of them, the rest of them.
Right, the rest of them were mostly below average, yeah. Like Stryker was like really low IQ, yeah.
But it's hard to find a psychiatrist who's tall and muscular.
But he wasn't supposed to be.
He was a typical psychiatrist.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks, doctor.
Yes, another hand back there, yes. No? Okay. All right, so, yeah, so the question is, should films about Nazis show them as articulate, cultured, even charismatic? Or is that dangerous?
Well, it's definitely dangerous.
It's dangerous, okay.
Why is it dangerous?
Why do you think it's dangerous?
Why is it dangerous? If you went to Berlin and you walked around, you saw the home with a beautiful lake behind it, whatever, which is totally normal suburban living. And these people walked in, I think about 8 generals, sat in a corner room and acted the way 8 normal executive people would act, and consider this just another executive feature of how we're looking at where we are as a country. Maybe not, but but certainly it looked as though we were in a nice suburb, which we were,
right,
leading a nice normal life existence, which they were, and it brings up some serious problems, particularly problems when you're talking about people who are somewhat anti-Semitic or follow.
Like it gives them some justification?
Right.
Okay.
It's a tough subject there, because a lot of these people do represent what you saw.
Right.
You really did.
Right. Okay, that's fair. Anyone else have anything on that? Okay. All right, so I have some trivia. There's a lot of it, and I think most of it's kind of fun, so we'll see. So courtroom 600, as you saw, still exists. That's where it was. What was interesting about the trial was that the just following orders was rejected here, and more so in the judgment at Nuremberg. But okay, so the real Nuremberg courtroom 600 remains one of the most important legal stages in modern history. Principles from Nuremberg influenced later tribunals involving Rwanda and the former Yugoslavia. The documentary footage from the actual trials still exists. Remember the footage they showed? Okay. The historic, okay. The trial created the modern crimes against humanity law, and filmed in Budapest. So much of Robert Jackson's cross-examination of Goering is presented verbatim from the actual record of the trial. The real Jackson was opposed to the death penalty, a position he agreed to defer to the tribunal's judgment. Furthermore, the tribunal deliberately chose death by hanging over firing squad to express contempt at the military defendants. The Nuremberg trial, remember, and if you remember, I don't know, now I'm getting it blurred, you can correct me. One of the films, Judgment at Nuremberg, or this one, the officers, the Germans wanted to be shot at a firing squad because they thought that was more dignified than hanging.
Well, it is.
Is that this movie?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, because I know it was the other movie. I didn't know it was this one too. Okay.
It's much more horrifying.
Right. Well, and I'll get into more on that in a minute. So the Nuremberg trial marked the first time that film and photographs of the inner workings of the concentration camps were publicly shown. Accounts from those present at the trial reported that the evidence shown was so shocking, several witnesses fainted and others broke down in tears. Michael Shannon's opening statement as Judge Jackson at the beginning of the trial is an exact, although shortened recitation of the actual opening statement he gave on November 21st, 1945, the second day of the tribunal. To this day, legal experts consider it one of the most influential speeches in the canon of international law and criminal jurisprudence. Goering was put on, in real life, Goering was put on a strict diet by his jailers so he would be fit to stand trial. He lost 65 pounds. Michael Shannon, Russell Crowe, and Richard E. Grant delivered their courtroom scenes in complete takes lasting as long as 25 minutes. The background extras, many played by Hungarians with family history in the war, would burst into applause at the end of each take. American Judge Francis Biddle said in American Heritage magazine that Sir David Maxwell Fyfe was the best cross-examiner he ever saw. Goering's glibness did rattle Robert Jackson. Maxwell Fyfe ignored Goering's sly witticisms and evasions, and the British lawyer's relentless and seemingly interminable questioning eventually wore Goering down. Despite how otherwise depicted in the film, in reality, Goering was allowed at least one known visit from his wife during his incarceration. So there was the. Although Goering was in real life fluent in English and would converse in English with his jailers, he chose to deliver his court testimony in German, knowing the world was listening. He and Jackson engaged in cross-examination through interpreter translation transmitted through headphones, which of course also buys him time to think of an answer.
Much better.
If anyone's ever had to be in a courtroom, I've had to give depositions, and what I was told was by the attorney coaching me, it had nothing to do with me, but I was a witness, I had a comment on it. So they said, take your time answering because the record will not reflect that. It's just going to say, put down what you say. So if it takes you 15 seconds, that's fine. Just, then it'll be on the record. It won't show there was a hesitation or a pause, and then you'll have your thoughts the way you want them expressed instead of just reacting quickly and then, I didn't mean to say that, and it's already out there. So this gave Goering time to think because he understood it in English, and he waited for the translation, and then he said it in German. So yeah, he bought himself some time. Okay. Michael Shannon requested there be no reaction shots of him during the scene in which footage of the concentration camps are shown in the courtroom, since he felt very uncomfortable having to, quote, act, unquote, in character in response to the footage of actual dead victims. Now, it was interesting they did choose Budapest because it's the country from which most of the final victims of the Holocaust were rounded up for death camps. And near the war's end, they were frequently summarily executed on site. Now, this wasn't really shown so much in this movie, but in Judgment at Nuremberg, the yellow and red light bulbs in the courtroom were a new system invented by IBM to control the speed and at times stop the dialogue of speakers to allow the translation team to keep pace. That was a bigger scene in Judgment at Nuremberg, but they did show that they had a little light bulb. Rami Malek claimed the jail scenes were filmed on sets with immovable walls, and it added to the feeling of claustrophobia. Russell Crowe reached a weight of 277 pounds during filming. He's like 6'3" though, but still lost 50 pounds after the film wrapped up. Right. Goering's daughter, Edda, remained unrepentantly supportive of her father's war efforts and died at age 80 in 2018. She's buried in an unmarked grave in Munich along with Mrs. Goering. When Goering suffers a supposed heart attack, he's given aspirin. We already talked about it. Wasn't commonly used until many years after the war was over. Justice Jackson had a very close working relationship with his secretary, Elsie Douglas. An affair between them was speculated on, but never proven to have occurred. Now, this was not true. In the movie, Rudolf Hess immediately shouts Sieg Heil. That was supposedly not true. In fact, the initial interactions between Hess and Goering and Nuremberg were characterized by feigned non-recognition and coldness rather than an enthusiastic Nazi salute. While they were later seated next to each other in court and often conversed or joked during breaks, the initial prison meeting was marked by tension, not a senile greeting. Now, in the scene where Stryker is hanged, here we go. This is what I wanted to get to. And the U.S. Army executioner walks down the stairs of the gallows to pull on Stryker to ultimately strangle him because he hadn't quite died. That's accurate, but it's more complicated. The backstory is, and the movie did not want to get into it, is the executioner was Sergeant John C. Wood, who got the job of executioner when the Army looked for a volunteer and listed hangman and found Woods, who falsely claimed previous experience as an assistant hangman. Wait. He was responsible for bungling dozens of executions of American soldiers and Nazi war criminals. In the case of Stryker, reporter Howard K. Smith wrote that the initial drop was not fatal and that witnesses could hear him groaning, upon which Woods came down from the platform and disappeared behind the black curtain that concealed the dying man. And then abruptly the groan ceased and the rope stopped moving. But Smith and other witnesses were convinced he grabbed Stryker and pulled down hard, strangling him. According to Lieutenant Stanley Tillis, who was charged with coordinating the hangings at Nuremberg, Woods had deliberately placed the coils of Stryker's noose off center to ensure they would not experience a quick death. Smith believed that Woods hated Germans and that a small smile crossed his lips as he pulled the handle.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow.
Well, for the Nazis anyway, yeah. That's what it says. It implied that he did it for like pretty much all of them. So kind of interesting there. According to at least two historical accounts, Herman also had to be weaned off his prodigious Pervitin addiction after being captured. Pervitin was an early form of a methamphetamine, and its use was pervasive through the Nazi leadership and military. Now, in the 2000 movie, Nuremberg, the part of Sir David Maxwell Fyfe was Christopher Plummer, right, who was 71 at the time. Okay, let's see, we got that already. And the actor who played Hess, Wolfgang Cerny, was in a 2023 movie called Nuremberg, which was a Russian movie about the Nuremberg trials released a couple of years earlier. That was funny.
He was pretty disgusted.
Yeah. Russell Crowe and Michael Shannon. Oh, and the story, the backstory on Hess, where he did try to negotiate a peace, that's a true story. There's actually a whole book on that. And there was a play that I got to read the script of that someone was going to make about Hess, really trying to negotiate peace, but being captured, and it didn't work out at all. And he almost got killed, actually. Farmers almost killed him.
The timing of that seemed suspect. I was looking at the movie today, and when he crashed was what year? And then when he, it was like he was absent from Germany for like 3 years.
Yeah,
well, I think it was 3 years.
I think it was 41 or so.
Was that early?
If you look back
Wow.
at the movie,
Okay.
it's that to me, like that was a missing.
Okay,
That was
that could
something
be.
that was a mistake.
Okay, that could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like a lot of times, for dramatic purposes, they got to condense things, so they play
Yeah.
fast and loose with the timing. Okay, now hear about the cyanide capsule. The film never explains how he gets the cyanide, but in 2005, a confession by a former guard stationed at the prison Goering was held offered one plausible answer. The guard said that a German girl he'd met named, quote, Mona, fooled him into passing Goering the poison in a small glass vial she claimed was medicine. Goering himself, however, left a note for the prison commander saying none of the guards were responsible, and in fact, he had smuggled it into his cell in a jar of hair cream. Goering also claimed he would have allowed the Allies to execute him by a firing squad, which he called a soldierly death, but not the humiliation, he said, of being hanged. So he did leave a note, which they didn't address. When Douglas Kelly's on the train leaving Nuremberg, this is kind of a cute one, he's shown practicing his card shuffling. Do you remember what card he cuts to?
3 of spades.
3 of spades.
No, this is later, at the end. 3 of spades was when he was doing the trick with the woman. King of Hearts, which is the Suicide King. All right, so a little, little film, hidden note there. Okay. So that foreshadows what was about to happen in the next scene with Goering committing suicide. And Kelly's close relationship with Goering is accurately portrayed in the film. And no mention is made of Goering's eczema. After his suicide, it was discovered he had hidden the cyanide capsule he used to take his own life in a jar of the skin cream he used to treat his eczema.
He brought it along with him?
They let her back.
I guess they let him have it, which I don't know how they didn't check it, but who knows? I mean, he may have had it in the lining of his coat and then he put it in there.
Right.
We don't know. Okay, so other trial films. And A Few Good Men is one that certainly comes to mind, given the military aspect of it. Another one I thought of was the Caine Mutiny, with, of course, Humphrey Bogart. Of course, we talked about Regiment Nuremberg. 12 Angry Men is a great court, has nothing to do with war, but a great courtroom drama, the whole movie. Also, The Verdict with Paul Newman. And if I remember right, Philadelphia with Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington. Right. Okay. All right. So I think that's pretty much all I have. You guys have any? But don't leave yet because we got to do the vote.
What was Goering's profession before the war? What did
He was a
do?
pilot in World War I.
Yeah, he got injured a couple times.
You know what I found was interesting, you kind of glossed over it, that he left a note that none of the jailers were responsible for bringing in the cyanide.
Right.
Which showed some kind of compassion. Right. That's
Well, again,
that's
he
interesting.
knows he's a narcissist. He wants to help portray how he was portrayed later. So he's trying to go out as a good guy, right? So that's the way I took it.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't know why they didn't. I mean, it would have extended the movie a few more minutes, but I think it's kind of relevant that he left a note.
Yeah.
I would have liked to.
Why would you believe the note?
That's true. You wouldn't. Yeah.
Just because he said it, you're gonna
Right,
believe
just because he said it.
Not a good guy.
That's the other thing I was going to say to Mark is that maybe he put it in there so whoever aided and abetted him wouldn't be scrutinized, right? Potentially. Okay.
That sounds the most plausible.
That could be. All right. So thank you. Let me pause this
We're
now.
not gonna